Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Beurah share. We're holding Mishnah Beurah Chelik Beis. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Netillas Yadayim, and Mirz Hashem in today's share, we will learn Daf Samach Aleph Amid Beis. So, we find ourselves in Siman Kuf Samach Hey in the middle of Sif Aleph. We are up to the very top line on Samach Aleph Amid Beis, top line in the Shulchan Aruch by the words V'im Einoi Roitze. So let's just remind ourselves of what we learned over here in Sif Aleph. The Mechaber has been discussing a case which is rather common. Somebody's ready to go into a seudah, so he's ready to wash the Netillas Yadayim al hapas, to be kaveh seudah al hapas. And we know that here in Siman Kuf Samachei, Mishnah Beurah Ois Katan Aleph, the Chavetz Chaim brought down from the Shla, as well as the Sefer Seder Hayom, that it is proper for a person to check whether or not he needs to use the facilities before he sits down for a seudah. Now, we can understand that. It makes perfect sense. It's really not appropriate, not proper, that somebody should have to get up in the middle of eating and then go use the facilities. So really, you should check to see if you need the facilities before the seudah. Bearing that in mind, it would seem common that somebody is going to use the Beis HaKisei right before the seudah, and now he's going to be up against an interesting shaila. He used the Beis HaKisei. He has to wash the Netillas Yadayim. He used the Beis HaKisei. He has to make a bracha asher yotzar. He's not allowed to make the bracha of asher yotzar until he washes his hands, because his hands are unclean from using the Beis HaKisei. So he came out of the Beis HaKisei. He needs to wash his hands in order to make a bracha of asher yotzar. He also needs to wash Netillas Yadayim al hapas and make a bracha asher kedushanim b'mitzvayis of tzivanu al Netillas Yadayim. And then he's going to sit down to the seudah and make the berachas hamoitzi on the pas of the seudah. How should he go about doing this? So the Mishnah Berurah showed us in Mishnah Beurah Ois Katan Beis some of the challenges that he's up against. What is he going to do? If he comes out of the Beis HaKisei and he washes one Netillas Yadayim, so he comes out of the Beis HaKisei, he takes a washing cup and he washes a beautiful Netillas Yadayim. Mayim Rishonim and Mayim Shtiyim on the right hand, Mayim Rishonim, Mayim Shtiyim on the second hand. He washed a beautiful Netillas Yadayim. Now, what bracha is he going to make? Really, the first chiyuv bracha that was chal on him was the chiyuv bracha to make an asher yotzar, because the chiyuv of the asher yotzar landed on him as soon as he used the Beis HaKisei. So you're tempted to say that he should make the asher yotzar. But the problem is, if he makes an asher yotzar now, he's being mafsik between performing the act of Netillas Yadayim, doing the actual Netillas Yadayim, and the bracha on Netillas Yadayim. And we know we never want to make a hefsik between a mitzvah and its bracha, even though Netillas Yadayim happens to present us with a peculiar case when it comes to Birchas HaMitzvahs, because generally we make Birchas HaMitzvahs over L'asiyasan. We usually make the bracha and then perform the mitzvah. Over here by Netillas Yadayim, we're actually performing the mitzvah. We're doing the Netillas Yadayim and then making the bracha. But that's just because we need to do it that way. But we still don't want to have an unnecessary hefsik between the performance of the mitzvah and the bracha on the mitzvah. So to go wash the Netillas Yadayim, make an asher yotzar, and then make the asher kedushanim b'mitzvayis of Netillas Yadayim, that presents us with a problem of making a hefsik between the Netila and the Netillas Yadayim. Okay, so you'll say, let's do it the other way. Let him wash the Netillas Yadayim, make the bracha al Netillas Yadayim, then make the bracha of asher yotzar, and then make the hamoitzi on the pas. That's also a problem. Why? Because we're going to learn in Siman Kuf Samach Vav, Tekif Linetila Seudah. We're supposed to go right from the Al Netillas Yadayim right to the Hamoitzi without a hefsik. And we all know, right? We wash the Netillas Yadayim, we sit down and nobody talks, nobody's mafsik. We're not mafsik between the bracha Al Netillas Yadayim and the brachas Hamoitzi. Now you're saying that this fellow should be mafsik between Al Netillas Yadayim and the Hamoitzi with asher yotzar. So that's also a problem. Okay, the Mishnah Beurah but he discussed a third option. You might say, let him go ahead, let him wash, let him make al Netillas Yadayim, then let him make hamoitzi, and take some pas, and then after the pas, make the ashayotzar. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that's also not a very comfortable eitzah, because now you are delaying the bracha of ashayotzar an inordinate amount. You used the Beis HaKisei. After you used the Beis HaKisei, you washed Netillas Yadayim. Then you made a bracha on Netillas Yadayim. Now you're sitting down to the seudah and you're making a bracha of Hamoitzi, and only now are you finally going to wake up and make an ashayotzar. So the Mishnah Berurah says the Mechaber didn't like that eitzah either. So now that we've listed all of the challenges and all of the problems, so what was the eitzah of the Mechaber? The eitzah of the Mechaber was, after you use the Beis HaKisei, do a very basic netila, a very basic washing of the hands that does not fulfill the requirements of Netillas Yadayim. Now, nowadays, in our situation, this is very, very simple. Come out of the Beis HaKisei, just turn on the water, put your hand under the water, so you're not using a keli. You might not be using koach gavra because it's only the first spurt of water that constitutes koach gavra. After that, it's not koach gavra. So you're zichud not yoytze Netillas Yadayim ala pas by going to the faucet, putting your hand under the faucet, and giving your hands a quick wash. So says the Mechaber, wash your hands to the extent that you now have nikiyus yadayim, and you're allowed to make the bracha of ashayotzar, so make the ashayotzar. Netillas Yadayim, you can't make the bracha of Netillas Yadayim because you didn't wash the Netillas Yadayim yet. So that's not an issue. So you are disposing of your chiyuv to make the bracha of ashayotzar, and you're doing it right after you use the Beis HaKisei, so you're not delaying the bracha of ashayotzar. There's no problem of making a hefsek between the Netillas Yadayim and the bracha of al Netillas Yadayim, because this washing of the hands that you did from the faucet is not a washing that fulfills the requirements of Netillas Yadayim. You can't make the bracha asher kedushanim b'mitzvayis of tzivanu al Netillas Yadayim if you wanted to. So come out of the Beis HaKisei, quickly give your hands a wash from the faucet, make an ashayotzar, then take a kais, wash a proper Netillas Yadayim, make the bracha asher kedushanim b'mitzvayis of tzivanu al Netillas Yadayim, and then sit down to the seudah, make hamoitzi and eat your pas. That was the eitzah of the Mechaber. At the near the end of the Mishnah Berurah here, in Mishnah Berurah Ois Cotton Bays on Samach Aleph Amud Aleph, the Mishnah Berurah threw out another possible eitzah. And that is, he brought down from many poskim that this idea that you can't wash, make an al Netillas Yadayim, then make the ashayotzar, and then make the hamoitzi, because the ashayotzar constitutes a problematic hefsek between the al Netillas Yadayim and the hamoitzi. He says many poskim don't agree with that. Why not? Because they reason that the ashayotzar is not a hefsek because it's a tzorich. It's kind of like a tzorich haseudah or a tzorich hanetila. Why? Because the whole reason you're delaying the ashayotzar until after the al Netillas Yadayim, the reason you're delaying it over there is because you cannot have a hefsek between the netila and the al Netillas Yadayim. So why are you delaying it? You're delaying it to meet the requirements of Hilchos Netillas Yadayim. If you're doing it to fulfill Hilchos Netillas Yadayim, then you can't tell me that it constitutes a hefsek between the al Netillas Yadayim and the hamoitzi. So he says many poskim say that eitzah is a reasonable eitzah. The Meiser Rav that I have, the psak that I was makabel from my Rebbe Reuven Feinstein Zalzan Gesund and Stark, is to follow that eitzah, which is you come out of the Beis HaKisei, wash a full Netillas Yadayim. When you come out of the Beis HaKisei, make a bracha asher kedushanim b'mitzvayis of tzivanu al Netillas Yadayim, then make the ashayotzar, and then make the hamoitzi by the seudah. So that's what we learned basically in a nutshell up until this point. Now, going to the top line on Samach Aleph Amud Beis in the Mechaber, says the Mechaber, and a very interesting lashon that the Mechaber uses over here, which I didn't really find an explanation of this, what seems to be a puzzling lashon to me. Says the Mechaber just told you what to do. In other words, if we read from the beginning of Siman Kuf Samach Hey, if we read the words of the Mechaber beginning on Samach Aleph Amud Aleph, the Mechaber said, somebody who used the facilities and now he wants to sit down to a seudah, what should he do? Said the Mechaber, Yitol Shtei Pa'amim, he should wash twice. Al Rishonim Bavarach HaSheyotzar, after the first washing, he's going to make the bracha of HaSheyotzar, and the Mishnah Berurah explained for us what I just spoke out, that first washing is a basic washing for Netillas Yadayim that does not meet the requirements of Netillas Yadayim. So do that washing and make the HaSheyotzar, and then continues the Mechaber, Va'al Hashniya, and then on the second washing, which is going to be a real Netillas Yadayim, Mevarach al Netillas Yadayim. That's what the Mechaber said. Now continues the Mechaber, V'im einoi roitza litayl ala pamachas. But if he doesn't want to do that, just funny to me. V'im einoi roitza litayl ala pamachas. If he only wants to wash one time, so he doesn't want to do what the Mechaber just said, so the Mechaber is throwing out an alternative eitzah. V'im einoi roitza litayl ala pamachas. Maybe he doesn't have enough water. If he only wants to wash one time, so then says the Mechaber like this. And we're going to have to, like I keep on saying in Hilchos Netillas Yadayim, we're going to have to do the math to figure out how this works. If he only wants to wash one time, so then, after he washes one time on each hand. What does that mean? That means what he's going to do is mayim rishonim onto the right hand, and then mayim rishonim onto the left hand, using less than, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I misspoke. No, let me take back what I said over here. Take back what I said, because the Mishnah Berurah is going to learn not that way. Back up. Says the Mechaber, Im eino roitza litayl ala pamachas. If he only wants to wash one time, so then the Mechaber says, La'achar sheshafach pamachas al yadav. After he washes one time on both of his hands, and we have to see what that means, umishafshef, and then he rubs his hands together, so he's washing one time on both hands, and then rubbing his hands together, yavarach HaSheyotzar. Then he should make an HaSheyotzar, va'achakach b'shas niguv, and then later, when he's ready to dry his hands, yavarach al Netillas Yadayim. He should make the bracha on Netillas Yadayim. Now, we have to see what this means. But the words of the Mechaber, what the Mechaber just said is as follows. I gave you one eitzah of what to do when you come out of the basic Kisei. And the first eitzah that I gave you, what did that eitzah accomplish? What I told you to do was wash one time and make an HaSheyotzar. That first time that you wash, you can't make an Al Netillas Yadayim yet because it was a washing that didn't meet the requirements of Al Netillas Yadayim. Then wash a second time, a real Netillas Yadayim, and then make an Al Netillas Yadayim. Now, says the Mechaber, what if you don't want to do that? What if you only want to wash once? So says the Mechaber, if you only want to wash once, wash one time, rub your hands together, make HaSheyotzar, and then when you're ready to dry your hands, make Al Netillas Yadayim. What does this mean? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Gimel. La'achar sheshafach. After you pour on your hands one time. Ritzayin loymar. The Chavetz Chaim says what the Mechaber wants to say is, the oimer berchas HaSheyotzar, you're going to make the bracha of HaSheyotzar, koidem shehigia zman berchas al Netillas Yadayim, before you've reached the point where you're able to make the Al Netillas Yadayim. Dahainu, what this means is, la'achar sheshafach rak pam achas al yadav, bepachos miravis. After you pour water one time on both of your hands, using less than a revius, v'shivshef yadav v'zu b'zu, and then you rub your hands together. Da'adayin lo nigbar hanetila. In this way, you have not yet finished making Netillas Yadayim. Right? Why didn't you finish Netillas Yadayim? Because following what the Mishnah Berurah just explained, the Mishnah Berurah just said, that what the Mechaber is saying is, it really is like I started saying earlier. Simple reading of the Mishnah Beurah. You took the kais, you poured water once on your right hand, you poured water once on your left hand. Now, at that point, and you used less than a revius. Now, when I say you used less than a revius, there was a revius in the kais, because remember, for Netillas Yadayim, you need a kais that's machzik a revius, you need a kais that could hold a revius, and there has to be a revius of mayim in the kais, even if you don't use the full revius yet. So what this guy did was he took a kais that holds a revius, he poured part of the revius on one hand, and then he poured part of the revius on the other hand. Now at that point, what is he up to, as far as the math of Netillas Yadayim goes? Well, by pouring water on one hand and pouring water on the other hand, he has removed the tumah from his hands, but since he used less than a revius, the tumah went into the mayim. So his hands are tahar, but he has mayim rishonim temeim on his hands. Right now, could he make a bracha on Netillas Yadayim? No, he can't make the Netillas Yadayim because he didn't finish yet. He still has mayim temeim on his hands, so he can't make it on Netillas Yadayim. So says the Mishnah, what the Mechaber is saying is like this. Theoretically, what you could do is, you could come out of the Beis HaKisei, wash mayim rishonim on one hand, mayim rishonim on the other hand. At that point, you could already make the bracha of Ashiyotzar, because your hands are clean enough that you can make the bracha of Ashiyotzar. So now make the Ashiyotzar. Then wash mayim shniyim on both hands. Now that you wash mayim shniyim on both hands, you can make the Netillas Yadayim. So with this eitzah, we're accomplishing the same thing as we accomplish in the Mechaber's first eitzah. The Mechaber's first eitzah required 2 washings. Now this one also requires 2 washings. But in the Mechaber's first eitzah, your first washing is not a Netillas Yadayim washing at all. You're sticking your hand under the faucet like you do every time that you come out of the Beis HaKisei. You're putting your hand under the faucet, you're washing your hands so that you can make an Ashiyotzar. But you're not using a keli, you're not using a keli mastic revius, you're not using a revius, you're not doing anything. So you can't make an Netillas Yadayim, but you can make an Ashiyotzar. So you made an Ashiyotzar, then go wash a second Netillas Yadayim with a kais and everything else, and wash a full Netillas Yadayim, and make a shekel d'shana v'sayis v'sivan on Netillas Yadayim. But the reason that eitzah solves all the problems is because it's allowing you to have clean hands so that you can make an Ashiyotzar before you accomplish the Netillas Yadayim that you should be able to make a shekel d'shana v'sayis v'sivan on Netillas Yadayim. The Mechaber's eitzah today does the same thing. The difference between the Mechaber's eitzah today and the Mechaber's eitzah last week is that the Mechaber's eitzah now is that you're only going to do, quote-unquote, 1 washing. What does it mean, 1 washing? Instead of coming out of the Beis HaKisei, washing your hand under the faucet, that's washing number 1. Making an Ashiyotzar, then going and getting a kais and filling up a kais and washing the Netillas Yadayim, which is a second washing. Instead of doing that, you're going to do, so to speak, 1 washing. You're going to skip the first washing from the faucet. You're going to get your Netillas Yadayim kais right away. You're going to fill it up right away. But you're going to break the Netillas Yadayim into 2 steps. Instead of doing mayim rishonim, mayim shniyim, mayim rishonim, mayim shniyim, what you're going to do is mayim rishonim, mayim rishonim. Then, now could you make al Netillas Yadayim? No, you can't. Because you still have tamei water on your hands. Now you'll make an Ashiyotzar. Then you'll do mayim shniyim, and then you'll make al Netillas Yadayim. That's what this eitzah is. But now the Mishnah is going to say, hold it. This all sounds very good. But the Mechaber has another word in here. If you look at the Mechaber says, V'meina roitza litay la pam achas, then la'achar sheshafach pam achas al yodav, after you pour the water 1 time on your hands, and the way I described that, mayim rishonim, umishafshef, and then you rub your hands together, then you make an Ashiyotzar. Now that's a problem, says the Mishnah Berurah. You can't do that. That was a very complicated sift that we learned earlier. You can't wash mayim rishonim on your right hand, then mayim rishonim on your left hand, and then be mishafshef. and then rub the two hands together. If you would do that, you would be transferring mayim rishonim that are tamei from the right hand to the left hand, and mayim rishonim that are tamei from the left hand to the right hand. And then when you pour mayim shneim, you can't be metaher that mayim rishonim. So you would have to dry your hands and get a do-over. You'd have to start all over again. So the Mishnah Berurah says that can't be what the Mechaber meant. Elamai, what did the Mechaber mean? He's going to say what the Mechaber meant was, you could either have somebody else pour mayim rishonim on both of your hands at once with less than a revius. If somebody else pours mayim rishonim on both of your hands at one time, then this eitzah works. Why? Because if somebody pours mayim rishonim on both of your hands at one time, then we learnt that your two hands are considered as if they are one hand, and they cannot transfer tumah one to the other. So then what you could do is, you could come out of the basic kisei, hold your hands out, somebody will pour mayim rishonim on both of your hands at once. Now your hands are considered yadai achas, they can't transfer tumah one to the other. Rub your hands together. Why are you rubbing your hands together? To make sure that you have yadayim nikiyos so you can make it asher yotzar. Make the bracha of asher yotzar, and then wash mayim shneim. He says that's what the Mechaber must mean. Let's see it inside. Again, I'm going to read from the beginning of Ice Cut and Gimel. Ritzaynei loymar, what the Mechaber wants to say is, Daimer berachas asher yotzar, you're going to make the bracha of asher yotzar, kaidem she'egiz man berachas Netillas Yadayim. Before you reach the point when you're allowed to make the bracha of Netillas Yadayim. Dahainu, which is, la'achar sheshafach rak pam akas al yodov, bepachas meravius. After you have washed each one of your hands with less than a revius, and that's important, because since you washed with less than a revius, your hands are clean for asher yotzar, but they're not finished Netillas Yadayim for al Netillas Yadayim, because they still have mayim harishonim temeim on them. V'shiv shef yadav zu bezu, and now you rub your hands both together. Da'adayin loy nigmar hanetila, so your Netillas Yadayim is not finished, so that you should be able to make asher kedushanim b'sayis v'sivan al Netillas Yadayim, because you still need mayim shneim. But asher yotzar you can make. So now you'll make it asher yotzar. And after that, shefech pam shniya, then you'll go pour a second time mayim shniyim al yadav, l'tara mayim rishonim, to take care of the mayim rishonim, v'oz mevarach al Netillas Yadayim u'menagvan. And then you'll make the bracha al Netillas Yadayim and dry your hands. Now he explains what I spoke out. V'af de mevur le'el b'simin kuf samach be'sif dalet. Even though we learned earlier in Siman Kuf Samach Beis Sif Dalet, that if you rub your hands together after washing only mayim rishonim with less than a revius, nitmu yadav zemizeh, you transfer tumah from one into the other, vein mayalachikaka mayim ashniim, and then mayim shneim can't work, and you have to dry your hands and start all over again. So how's the Mechaber suggesting to me that I should wash mayim rishonim on each hand, and then be meshafshef, and then make asher yotzar, and then do mayim shneim and make al Netillas Yadayim? You can't do that. If you wash only mayim rishonim with less than a revius on each hand, and then you meshafshef, you're done. You got to start over again. So how does he say that? Yesh loymar, what you could say is, the answer to this question is, the Hachamairi, over here we're talking about a case, shenishpach al shtei yadav ka'achas, where you poured the mayim rishonim on both of your hands as one. Does chashivi ki yad achas, now your two hands are considered like one, and they don't transfer tumah one to the other, umutal l'shafshafam, and you're allowed to rub them together, ukedel el b'sim kuf samach beis sif hey. Now, how would you do that? Either you would have somebody else pour on both of your hands at once, or you'd have to use that funny eitzah that we spoke about, where you're going to grasp the kais somehow with your fingertips and pour it back onto both of your hands at one shot. Okay. The Achronim write Dilidi done. According to us, Tinahaginon lital revius bavachasach al kol yad v'yad. We are accustomed that when we wash the Netillas Yadayim, we avoid all of these problems by washing with more than a revius on each hand. Imkein nigmar tekef taras Yadayim leveroy levarach al Netillas Yadayim. According to us, our minig that we make sure to wash with more than a revius, then this eitzah wouldn't work. Because as soon as we wash the first hand with more than a revius, Netillas Yadayim is done. Even though we're makbid to wash mayim shneim, but really we don't need mayim shneim. You poured mayim rishayim more than a revius on your hand, the tumah is completely gone. The mayim rishayim are not tumah either. So really, once you do that to both hands, you're ready to make an al Netillas Yadayim. So now you can't make an ashayotza. Because if you do, you're being mafsik between the netila and the bracha of al Netillas Yadayim. So with our minig, this eitzah doesn't work. Imkein nigmar tekef taras Yadayim v'roy levarach al Netillas Yadayim. V'imkein brachas hashiyotzer have a hefsik ben netila levracha. And therefore, v'yoser toiv, it is better lasais ka'ofen harishayin amuska b'shulchan aruch, to follow the Shulchan Aruch's first eitzah of doing a dual washing. Wash one washing first, like from the faucet, that doesn't accomplish the Netillas Yadayim, make an Asher Yotzar, then wash the Netillas Yadayim from a keli in the normal manner, and make Asher Kedushanim and Mitzvahs of Zivano on the Netillas Yadayim, or the psak that I told you from my Rabbeim, which is to wash one time a regular Netillas Yadayim, make the Al Netillas Yadayim, and then the Asher Yotzar. Okay, now we move along to Sif Beis, the final Sif here in Siman Kuf Samachay. And wow, I did not realize, really, this is the last Sif in Hilchos Netillas Yadayim. Siman Kuf Samach Vav is, even though it has to do with Netillas Yadayim, I think it's already called Hilchos Petzias Hapas. It's because already we start mentioning B'tzias Hapas. So really, this is the last sif in what has been a very, very, very fascinating study in Hilchos Netillas Yadayim, Siman Kuf Samachay, Sif Beis. Im Rabim Misubin Baseudah. If there are a lot of people sitting down to a seudah, HaGadol Noitel Yadav Techila. The Gadol, the most choshev person from the group, Noitel Yadav Techila, he should wash first. That's the ruling over here of the Mechaber. But then says the Mechaber, V'harosh, as far as the Rosh, V'harosh ha'yuraga lital ba'achroina, the Rosh had the minig to be the last one to wash. Why? Shaloi lahafsik v'shaloi ledaber, so that he should have as small a hefsik as possible between the netila and the hamaitzi, and also so that he shouldn't come to inadvertently speak between the netila and the berchas hamaitzi. Says the Mishnah Beurah is cut and daled. The first thing that the Mechaber said was that the Gadol should wash first. Says the Mishnah Beurah, the Keinu Kvaidai. It's the covet of the Gadol. Always, when there's something that a group has to do, you're always a Mechaber the Gadol to go first. The Gadol shouldn't be waiting for anybody. So over here, a lot of people have to go wash. Be Mechaber the Gadol to go wash first. So he doesn't have to wait for anybody. That would seem to be the Pashtus. But then we have Ois Cotton Hay, for Harash HaYaragil, the Rosh was in the habit of washing last. Why? Says the Mishnah Beurah Sfirale, the Rosh held, the Shani Bismana Talmud, in the times of the Gemara, when it's brought down that the Gadol washed first, that was different. Why? Shahaya l'chol echad me'amisubin shulchan b'fnei atzmai. In the times of the Mishnah, the times of the Gemara, the way they sat down to a seudah was not that they had a formal dining room and everybody sat down around a 20-foot long dining room table when there was a big group. And everybody waited until everybody finished washing, and then the Gadol made the hamaitzi and was maitzi everybody in the berachas hamaitzi. That's not what they did. What they did was everybody was mesubin, they reclined, on cushions, and everybody had their own little table. And everybody made their own bracha. when everybody had their own little table with their own pas, and everybody made their own hamoitzi. Now, in that scenario, the Rosh said, it makes perfect sense that the gadol should wash first. Why should the gadol wait for anybody? Let the gadol go wash, and then he'll sit down by his little table, he'll take his challah, he'll make a hamoitzi, and he'll start eating. But that was only in the time of the Mishnah and the Gemara. So like the Mishnah where it says, Sphirally, the Shani was man Talmud. It was different in the times of the Gemara, where everybody had their own little table, and they would start eating as soon as they finished the Netillas Yadayim. But nowadays, when everybody's sitting together around one big table, and everybody starts to eat together at the same time. Which means that after everybody finishes the Netillas Yadayim, then the gadol makes the hamoitzi and his moitzi everybody in his bracha. In that case, then it's better for the gadol to wash last, so that he shouldn't end up having a hefsik between his Netillas Yadayim and the hamoitzi, or even speaking between them. Because imagine, again, there's a very, very simple difference. What we do, where everybody is around the same table, and the gadol is being moitzi everybody in the brechas hamoitzi. So let's imagine this. You're going to be mechabed the gadol that he should go wash first. So the gadol, he's not going to have to wait for anybody. He's going to go wash first. Then he's going to sit down by the table and twiddle his thumbs and wait until everybody finishes washing and comes back to the table so that he can make a hamoitzi. Because he has to wait for his hamoitzi for everybody. So he didn't have to wait to go wash, but he certainly has to wait now. So says the Rosh, nowadays it would be a much better kibud for the gadol. Let him wait until everybody finishes washing. When everybody finishes washing, he'll get up, he'll go, wash, sit down, make a brechas hamoitzi, and be moitzi everybody. Otherwise, he's got to sit there between his Netillas Yadayim and his hamoitzi. He can't speak, he can't do anything, he just sits there like a dummy. So why should we do that? Do it the other way. The mechaber in Siman Kuf Samach Vav, Yetz Hashem will see tomorrow, Hiskim agrees to toiv lizar melahafsikum meladaber, that it is proper not to have a hefsik, or certainly not a hefsik with speech, between the Netillas Yadayim and hamoitzi. And the ganze Welt is machmir, that they don't speak and they're not mafsik between the Netillas Yadayim and hamoitzi. Machmirin, even to wait a long time between washing and hamoitzi, we're machmir not to do. If so, when you have very big seudas, let's say you go to a chassid, you have 150 people washing and eating, so then, even if you let the gadol wash last, so what are you going to do? The guy who washes first is going to have to wait 10 minutes until the gadol washes and now is moitzi him with the brechas hamoitzi? He says it's going to be a very big hefsik of shehiyah. It's going to be a very big hefsik of waiting. It's also very possible that people will end up being mafsik with dibur. They'll end up schmoozing with each other between the Netillas Yadayim and hamoitzi. Therefore, in Anochain, it would be proper sha'agadol yital tchila, that again, even nowadays, if we have a very, very large group, the gadol should wash first, kibizman hashas, like in the time of the Gemara, and he should not wait to be moitzi, the tzibur with the brechas hamoitzi. He should make his own hamoitzi and start eating. And so to everybody else who's washing, they should wash, and each one should make a brechas hamoitzi for himself. So then nobody has to wait for anybody. So this is in a chirami what we do by a chasana. You ever wonder why by a chasana? Maybe by a chasana, everybody should go wash, everybody should sit down and wait until the gadol makes a hamoitzi and his moitzi everybody. No, we don't do that, because there's no way to work it out that people aren't going to end up having a very, very significant hefsik. No matter how you cut it, somebody's going to end up having a very significant hefsik. Therefore, when there's a large group, everybody goes, makes their own bracha. So now, be mechabed the gadol to go wash first, so he doesn't have to wait online to wash. He'll wash, and then he'll sit down, take his bilkala, make a hamoitzi, and eat. Ois kan vav shalal hafsik. So there shouldn't be a hefsik between Netillas Yadayim and the Amaitzi. Hainu b'shehiyah maruba, even with just a long delay. Ukid l'kamam b'simikov samach vav. V'shalal l'daber. Hainu afilu sicha muetes. Dibor, speaking, would constitute a problematic hefsik, even if it's only a sicha muetes, even if it's only talking a little bit. Okay, thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The source of limud HaTorah should be megan against Klal Yisrael. The Rosh should said, Yeshua Sefuras Parnassus should do all those he needs. Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, and the student about Tzara Ba'ashivya, Ha'imdim Bein Bayam Bein Bayabasha, Ha'makim Mirachem Aleim V'Yitziam Mitzar L'Ravacha, Me'afelo La'Oiro Mishibud L'Geula, Hashta Ba'Gala Uzman Kariv, V'Namar Amen. Thank you so much for joining me to learn this beautiful Hilchos Netillas Yadayim. This has been some limud Hilchos Netillas Yadayim. I certainly would encourage everybody, if they can, to go back at Chazir Iber, and Mirz Hashem, tomorrow we will begin Hilchos B'tzias HaPas. Thank you all. Be well.